Okay, we're continuing in Perik Hey in Shara Kudim, close to the end. והנה, מכאן תוכל להבין איך יש גם כן בעולם הקודם מציאות ביטול המלאכים בצד מה. Now we can also understand how there was a certain type of bitul hamalachim, which we're going to learn about later, which is what we call in Kabbalah the shviras hakelim, which also in a sense happened here also in Olam HaKudim. Kedimion osam malachim shemolchu beretz Edom shemesu v'nisbatlu. And there's a similar instance, a similar comparison, or a similar type of action that happens here in Olam HaKudim, which can be compared to what happens in Olam HaNikudim, which is the next chapter, the next shah that we're going to learn about, which is where the Olam actually goes out and one after the next actually breaks. Where this is the shviras hakelim, which is a very important point, a very pivotal point in all of creation and in Kabbalah. So also in Akudim there's a certain type of thing which is taking place, which is similar to this shvir, which we're going to learn about later. If for those people who are learning for the first time, it's understandable that this concept of shviras hakelim is not going to be understood right now. So this piece is going to be a little bit harder, a little bit hard to understand. But basically, there are going to be spheres that are going to be created that will break, and there's a discussion about what happens with the pieces afterwards, with certain nitzotzos and the kelim go down, and certain parts of the kelim are fixed up afterwards, and also similarly here there's a certain type of breakage, so to speak. A type of breakage, not actual breakage because here nothing broke, it just went up back into the pet. Like we're going to explain at more length in Drusha Manakudim about the Shvir. כעניין האיסלמוס האורס של הקודים וליישם במצילום הנה גם כן ביטול המלאכים בכאן. The idea of the oros going back into the matzil is also a type of bitul, because for the time when the oros go back into the matzil, there is no the oros hakudim lost all their or. It's a type of bitul. And as we're going to explain in the sort of the Nekudim, how the Indian of the Tanta, how it shows that there's a type of Bittul Malachim. We're going to see later on that Nekudus are going to be we're going to explain how that's referring to Bittul Malachim. And here we had in Om HaKudim was it Tamim Tachtonim of Sag. We said Sag has 4 bechinos: Tamim, Nekudus, Tagim, and Osios. And the Tamim are divided into 3 types: the Tamim Elyonim, which are on top of those; the Tamim Emtsayim, which are in the middle of those; and Tamim Tachtonim. We said those Tamim Elyonim are the Orsa Znaim, the Tamim Emtsayim are the Orsa Chotem, and Tamim Tachtonim are Orsa Peh, Orsa Hakudim, which we're dealing with right now, which go back into the Peh. So later on, what's going to come out of the Einaim is going to be called the Nekudos of Sag, which is, we're going to call it the Olam HaNekudim, which is going to come out of the eyes and go down underneath the tibur. And underneath the tibur, it's going to have a shvir, it's going to have breakage, and it's going to fall down to even lower. Umisham Tovin, Gam Ken Mitzusam Kan Olam HaKudim. And from there, when we learn there, we'll see how it also can be compared to what's happening here, where the Orsa Akudim are going from the peh down to the tibur and then back up into the peh. That's similar to the Orsa Nikudim breaking. Duk v'tishkach, and we can go there, and when we get there, we can compare it, or you can do it by yourself now. The main difference between Olam HaNikudim, which is in the peh, and Olam HaNikudim, which is going to come out of the eyes and go down underneath the tabor until the feet of Adam Kadmon. Here in Akudim, the kilkul, so to speak, which is the disappearance of the or, where the or disappears and goes back into the peh, is a kilkul amanas lataken, is a breakage in order to fix, in order so that the ors could leave a kli, as we're going to see. And and destroying in order to build, which is destroying the or outside, which stands outside the peh, the or sakudim, and then it's in order to build back the or sakudim. It's in order to build the mechin of kelim in a way that could stand. K'moshen isbar, as we explained. Because this was the main kavanah, to bring them back into the peh in order to make them kelim. This is the whole inyan of one of the big inyanim of Olam HaKudim, was to make kelim. So it's not a bad thing that happened here, so to speak. Whereas it's a destruction in order to build. It's a surgery, or it's a difficult thing that need to be done. The difficulty is the stalkus or, because for a certain period of time there was no or between the peh and the taber. When all the ors went back into the peh, the ors hakudim, the kelim of the hakudim were left empty. That's a type of misa. It's death. When the neshama goes back into the upper worlds, so the body is considered dead. So too in the oros, which are the neshama of the kelim, of the body of the akudim, when it left, went back into the peh, it's a type of death. It's like death. But also, there's another difference, is that in akudim there was a bittul and misa, it was real death. But since in the akudim there was also a certain type of revelation of kelim, also by the akudim there's also a certain type of misa and bittul, which is the stalkus of the or of akudim. V'amivin yovin ki gam ba'adam kadmon hanizkar le'el hayakol usam hamatziu hatzimtzumim shebiyanu bo'lamal. Also, if the one who understands can understand that also in Adam Kadmon, all of these tzimtzumim that we shebiyanu bo'lamal, that we explained above, meaning I think he's referring to the stalkus of Oros HaKudim, and also possibly the inyan of the Shir Kelim, also in a sense happened, again in a very far distant sense, but in a sense did also take place in a certain way in the also inside Adam Kadmon himself. V'gam also shenevar lekamon be'ez Hashem binyan tzeis haNekudim imenu. Ve'ich tzimtzem atzmo v'paris chad parsa v'tibur dilei. And also, as we're going to explain later on, in the inyan of the Nekudim that came out, the Nekudim which we're talking about the eyes, and this is compared to Ve'ich tzimtzem atzmo v'paris chad parsa v'tibur dilei, and how he himself made a tzimtzum inside his own or. We're going to learn about this later, and made a parsa, which was another type of tzimtzum. We're going to learn about this. And this was a type of tzimtzum which also happened in Adam Kadmon. A very different type, but very, very similar. Much more similar, I would say, to Oros HaKudim, because it's a istalkus or, as opposed to what happened in Olam HaKudim, because in Olam HaKudim there was mamash and misa. But here there's no real misa, it's just a istalkus and aliyah, and it's a different bechin altogether. All of these bechinas that we mentioned, which is the istalkus Oros HaKudim, and histalkus haraglaim, we're going to see by Adam Kadmon, and also the parsa that Adam Kadmon makes, which we're going to learn about later. These are all bechinas that are karvel b'tul malachim. They're similar, or close to in conceptually, or in the inyan. The yesod is very similar to what happened by b'tul malachim. And these things, I hope you're not thinking that I said, but these things are Asr l'harchiv b'hem. It's also to be marchiv, to go to expound on this, and it's also to be motzi them b'peh, to say them out loud. So I certainly hope that I didn't do anything so serious. V'amivin yavin, and those people who understand will understand. And I'm somech on my rabbanim who taught me, and they do explain these things, even though the Rav himself says that's also to be marchiv b'hem, and I'm pretty sure also I've seen in Mefashim that they also are marchiv and explain yonim, where sometimes the Rav says there's a secret and we can't write it, or it's also harchiv or something similar to this inyan. V'da ki b'malchus shalom hakudim nishur ba eser shorashim shel eser nakudim shenevarim be'ez Hashem. And now another thing, which is like seems like a new topic here, that you should know that the Malchus of Olam HaKudim has inside of it 10 shorashim, 10 roots of the 10 Nekudim, which we're going to explain later on. The Nekudim are going to come out of the Inayim, and inside the Malchus of HaKudim is going to be 10 shorashim. And this is how it works also with every level, from world to world. The upper world has in its Malchus the root of the 10 spheres of the lower Malchus, of the lower Olam, and that's how it is in every Olam. Ki Malchus shel Shorashim asher bepeshel Adam Kadmon hu klula me'asara. The Malchus that's in the peh of Adam Kadmon has inside of it 10 bechinas, as every single one of the spheres have 10 spheres, or could be divided by 10 spheres, or included inside of them are 10 spheres. And these 10 spheres of the Olam HaKudim, of the Malchus of Olam HaKudim, hem esher shorashim Ki Malchus shel Shorashim asher bepeshel Adam Kadmon. The Malchus of the Shorashim that's in the peh of Adam Kadmon, which is, he's talking about inside the peh itself, not talking about the ors that come out of the peh. It has the peh itself has 10 spheres also, and from the Malchus is divided into 10, and this Malchus has the 10 shorashim of the 10 spheres of the akudim which come out. So there's a new concept he's introducing here, that inside the peh there were also 10 spheres, and the Malchus of that 10 spheres was the yesod for all the 10 spheres which came out of the peh, which we learned about. And similarly, easier to understand because we learned about all these nyanim before. The Malchus of akudim, ki asar shorashim el spheres hanakudim. In a Malchus of akudim, from the peh to the tabor, was the 10 shorashim, 10 roots for all of the 10 spheres of the spheres ha-nikudim, which came from the tabor and down. So too the akudim had a malchus which had 10 spheres inside of it, which were its source, the source of the ors that came out of the peh. Even though we don't, this seems to be the only place that it's mentioned where it says ki malchus shel shorashim asher bepeh shel Adam Kadmon, close, which seems to be certain types of ors inside the peh, which are shorashim for Olam HaAkudim. V'chen b'malchus haNikudim asher be'eser shorashim hem shor shel eser spheres devrudim. Now this גישה is incorrect, but I'm going to explain. The chor it's incorrect. The Beis Lechem Yehuda fixes it, and I think I'm pretty sure others also. It's a very strange גישה. I think also in the Xayim it doesn't say this. Yeah. Pretty sure the Xayim also. In case there are other גישות that say not like this, but the words here mean this incorrect גישה of the chor saying that the malchus of nikudim, which is the ors that come out of the eyes, is going to have inside of it the 10 shorashim for the ors of avrudim, which again these two concepts we didn't learn about yet, and we're not going to learn about them until much later. Really, nikudim starts in the next page, mamash after we finish this shir right here, but the vrudim is the beginning of the Olam HaTzilus the way we know it now, or similar to the Olam HaTzilus. It is the Olam HaTzilus the way we know it now. It's also called Olam HaVrudim. So we saw akudim, nukudim, and vrudim, which are the three ones that we mentioned before. Akudim is from the Ors HaPeh, the first Olam with Kelim. Nikudim is the Olam HaShvira, and vrudim is a tikkun of the Olam HaShvira. So the Olam HaTzilus that we have now is more or less a tikkun, a more perfected state of the Olam HaNikudim. So, according to this understanding, it wouldn't make sense to say that the Ors HaNikudim, which came out of the eyes, have inside its malchus the source for the 10 spheres of Olam HaVrudim. Olam HaVrudim and Olam HaNikudim are essentially the same thing. Just Nikudim is in a state of shvira, and Vrudim is in a state of tikkun once the Ors HaMach starts coming out of the Metzach, and we're going to see a certain ors are going to come to start fixing the shvira, the breakage that's going to be created through the shvira from the Olam HaNikudim. And this this fixing is going to combine with the broken kelim and the fallen mitzotzos of nikudim and other bechinos that we're going to see, and it's going to create the olam hatzilus, which is called olam avrudim. But since nikudim and vrudim, or nikudim and hatzilus, is essentially the same thing, vrudim and hatzilus are also are synonyms, then it wouldn't make sense to ever say that the root of the malchus of nikudim is has in it, the malchus of nikudim has in it the roots of the 10 spheres of the vrudim, since they're essentially the same olam. And similarly this goes throughout all the olamos, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, and also the every other type of olam that we could divide or cut any type of other bechina of the 4 olamos or other types of olamos that we have, which that's Hashem we're going to learn about. These are all bechinas of each one has the malchus of the upper olam has the shorish for all of the spheres that come underneath it, all the 10 spheres of the world underneath it.